I never thought taking my daughter out for a weekend to cheer her up would turn into such a tense standoff in my own family. But here I am, replaying the past few days and wondering if I really did something wrong, or if this is about something much deeper than a single weekend. It wasn't supposed to be anything dramatic. If anything, I thought I was doing the reasonable, compassionate thing. I have triplets, Mark, Liam, and Abby, and anyone who's ever raised multiples will tell you that trying to make sure everyone feels included is basically an Olympic sport. You plan, you juggle, you compromise. You try to make sure no one ends up feeling like the odd one out. But sometimes, no matter how hard you try, someone is going to feel left behind. And when that happens, you have to decide what to do. Ignore it? Tell them to toughen up? Or try to find a way to remind them they're just as important. Last weekend was supposed to be simple. My husband, Josh, decided to take our two sons on a spontaneous trip to Six Flags. I didn't mind staying home. I've never liked amusement parks, and honestly, I was looking forward to a quiet Saturday. But Abby was disappointed she wasn't invited. She asked if she could come too, and her brothers told her flat out that she'd ruin the vibe because it was a boys' trip. I could see her trying not to cry. I remember thinking, they'll have their fun and that's okay, but she deserves to have something special too. I never thought for a second that giving her a little attention would be controversial. But apparently to Josh it was more than that. Apparently it was special treatment, a kind of reward for not being included. Something that, in his mind, would set a dangerous precedent. I still don't really understand how taking my daughter out for a nice meal, a spa afternoon, and a little shopping, none of which cost more than I could easily afford, turned into an argument so big he wouldn't even look at us when he got home. I keep thinking back to how happy Abby was, how she held up her Build-A-Bear with this shy little smile and said, "This is the best day I've had in a long time." And I keep thinking about the way Josh's face hardened when she told him about it, like she'd done something wrong by enjoying herself. So here I am, wondering if I really crossed some invisible line, or if standing up for my daughter was exactly what she needed, even if it made my husband furious. Josh and I have been married for almost 20 years. We met young, barely out of college, and in a lot of ways we grew up together. He's always been a hands-on father, the type who coached soccer and volunteered for field trips. He has a playful streak that our boys especially respond to. When we found out I was pregnant with triplets, it was both the happiest and most terrifying moment of my life. I remember sitting in that ultrasound room, gripping his hand while the technician said, "Well, there are 3 heartbeats." We laughed and cried all the way home. From the start, Mark and Liam were close in a way that sometimes made Abby feel a little separate. It's not that they don't love their sister. They do. But the boys share so many interests and an unspoken bond that comes from being 2 halves of the same personality. They've always been into the same things. Sports, video games, amusement parks. Abby is quieter, more introspective. She loves crafts, baking, books. I've tried over the years to make sure she never felt like an afterthought. Sometimes that meant planning girl time for the 2 of us while Josh took the boys camping. Sometimes it meant encouraging her to invite a friend along to even out the dynamic. But no matter what I did, there were moments when she felt left out. She never complained much. She's not the kind of kid who throws tantrums, but sometimes she'd go to her room and shut the door, and I'd know her feelings were hurt. Josh has always been a little dismissive of that. He grew up in a big family where you were expected to roll with whatever plans were happening, no matter if you felt included or not. He thinks kids today are too sensitive, that everything gets labeled as exclusion when it's just normal sibling dynamics. I don't think he means to be unkind, but sometimes I wish he could see that what feels like nothing to him can feel huge to her. Last Friday, when he announced he was taking Mark and Liam to Six Flags, I didn't think much of it. I knew the boys would be thrilled. They love roller coasters and the whole adrenaline rush. Abby, on the other hand, perked up immediately. "Can I come too?" she asked, her eyes bright. Josh hesitated. "Well, it's kind of a guy thing," he said slowly. Mark and Liam jumped in. "Yeah, it's a boys' trip," Liam said, grinning. "You'd just get bored. You'd slow us down," Mark added. I saw Abby's face fall. I tried to catch Josh's eye to see if he'd reconsider, but he shrugged a little like it wasn't a big deal. Maybe you and Mom can do something fun, he said, already moving on. I sat there for a second, feeling torn. On the one hand, I know sometimes the boys want time with their dad. On the other hand, the way they dismissed her stung, and I could tell it stung her too. After they left Saturday morning, the house felt too quiet. Abby came downstairs in her pajamas, holding her stuffed bunny, and just sort of curled up on the couch. Want to have a girls' day? I asked gently. Her whole expression shifted. Really? She asked. Really? I said. Whatever you want. I didn't have any big plan. I just knew I couldn't let her sit there feeling like she was less important than her brothers. I never imagined that decision would turn into something my husband would be angry about. To me, it felt like the obvious thing any parent would do. Because if she couldn't be included in their fun, why shouldn't she have her own? Saturday turned out to be one of those days that felt easy in a way I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Abby and I got dressed and drove to the Cheesecake Factory for lunch. It's always been our special place. Every year on her birthday, she asks to go there, just the two of us. She ordered her favorite, 4-cheese pasta with no tomatoes, and I had my usual salad. For a while, she was still quiet, picking at her food. But slowly, she started to relax. She told me about a book she was reading, about the new art project she wanted to start, about a girl at school she thought might become a friend. I could see the hurt from earlier in the day receding. When we finished lunch, I asked if she wanted to go anywhere else. She looked surprised, like she hadn't expected this to last past the meal. Really? She said. We can do something else? Of course, I said. It's your day. So we went to the local spa. Just a little place, nothing fancy, where she got a manicure and I had a quick massage. She picked out a sparkly lavender polish that matched the scrunchie on her wrist. Afterward, we stopped by the mall. I'd recently gotten a bonus at work, more than I'd expected, and I hadn't figured out what to do with it yet. So when she looked longingly at a display in her favorite store, I told her she could pick out a few things. Her eyes went huge. Really? She kept asking, like she needed me to confirm it was okay. Really? I told her. It wasn't an extravagant spree, just a couple of tops, some cute earrings, a stuffed animal. It came to about $150. I didn't mind. The best part of the day was Build-A-Bear. She hadn't been there in years, but something about it made her light up. We each made a bear for the other. Hers for me was dressed like a little businesswoman, with glasses and a tiny laptop. Mine for her wore a sparkly dress and a heart necklace. When we were done, she hugged me so tight I almost cried. Thank you, Mommy, she whispered. This was the best day ever. We ended the weekend with brunch on Sunday. Nothing fancy, just pancakes and orange juice at the diner down the street. She was happy. That was all I cared about. When Josh and the boys came home Sunday evening, Abby was practically bouncing to tell them everything we'd done. She held up her Build-A-Bear, showed off her new earrings, and chattered about how much fun we'd had. At first, Josh just listened. But as she kept talking, I saw his expression change. His jaw tightened. His eyes got that flat, disapproving look I'd learned to dread. Finally, he turned to me. Really? He said, his voice low. You thought this was appropriate? I blinked. What do you mean? He gestured at Abby. All this, he said, taking her shopping, the spa, Build-A-Bear. You know how that looks, right? I was just trying to make her feel better, I said slowly. She was left out. He shook his head. You basically rewarded her for not being included, he snapped. You're teaching her that any time she doesn't get her way, she gets a special day. That's not how life works. Abby's face fell. She looked at the floor, clutching her bear. That's not fair, I said, my voice rising. You told her she couldn't come because it was a boys' trip. She didn't do anything wrong. Josh wouldn't look at me. She needs to learn that sometimes other people do things without you, he muttered. You can't just spoil her every time she's disappointed. It wasn't spoiling, I insisted. It was spending time with her. That's all. He let out a humorless laugh. No, you made sure she got something out of being left behind. You know how the boys will see this. Like she got a reward for pouting. She wasn't pouting, I said, feeling my hands shake. She was sad. He didn't respond. He just walked past us to the bedroom and closed the door. Later that night, when Abby was asleep, I tried again. I knocked softly and went in. He was lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone. "Can we please talk about this?" I asked. He didn't look up. "You don't see how you undermined me," he said flatly. I swallowed. "This wasn't about you," I said. "This was about her." He finally met my eyes. "And that's the problem," he said. After that conversation, I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was furious. Another part was exhausted. But mostly, I was sad that something as simple as trying to make my daughter feel valued could turn into this cold standoff in our home. I sat alone in the kitchen for a long time that night, replaying everything. The way Abby's face had lit up when she realized she wasn't going to be stuck home alone. The way she'd said, "Best day ever," so quietly, like she was scared I might take it back. And then the way she'd shrunk in on herself when Josh scolded me in front of her. It felt like no matter what I did, someone would be disappointed. I thought about all the years I'd tried to balance everything. 3 kids the same age but such different personalities. Mark and Liam, loud and rough and tumble, always in sync. Abby, softer, sensitive, forever a little on the outside of their bond. I never wanted her to feel like an afterthought. Maybe that's why, when Josh called what I'd done spoiling, something in me snapped. I thought, if it had been one of the boys left out, would he be this upset? Or would he have taken them to do something special himself? The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that this wasn't really about the shopping or the spa or the money. It was about the fact that I'd chosen to prioritize Abby's feelings over some unspoken family script that said she should just get over it. But I don't think kids should have to get over feeling excluded without any support. I think sometimes you're allowed to say, "Hey, that hurt," and have someone listen. That next morning, Abby came downstairs clutching her bear. She looked up at me with this tentative expression, like she was worried she'd done something wrong. "Is Dad mad at me?" she asked in a tiny voice. "No, sweetheart," I said, pulling her into a hug. "You didn't do anything wrong." She nodded, but I could tell she wasn't convinced. That was when I decided. I wasn't going to apologize for trying to make her feel loved. I could have handled it differently, maybe. I could have sent Josh a message saying what we were doing. I could have downplayed the day so he wouldn't see it as over the top. But in that moment, all I cared about was making sure my daughter knew she mattered. If that made me the bad guy in Josh's eyes, then so be it. I wasn't going to let her believe that wanting to be included was something to be ashamed of. After that weekend, the tension in our house didn't go away. Josh stayed distant. He did the bare minimum of conversation with me, polite but stiff. He wasn't overtly angry anymore, but there was a coldness to everything he said, like he was measuring every word. Abby noticed. Of course she did. She stopped talking about her shopping trip. She tucked the Build-A-Bear on the shelf in her closet instead of leaving it on her bed. And every time Josh came into the room, she'd look down, as if she was afraid to remind him she'd been part of what he considered a problem. That hurt more than anything. I tried to talk to him again a few days later when the kids were all at school. I thought maybe some time would help him see it differently. "I think we need to talk about this," I said carefully. He didn't look up from the emails he was reading. "I don't have anything else to say," he replied flatly. "You can't just stay mad forever," I said, feeling my frustration bubble up. "You're acting like I betrayed you. You undermined me," he said, finally setting his laptop aside. "You rewarded her for being excluded. Do you not see how that looks?" "To who?" I demanded. "To the boys? To you?" Because to her, it looked like her mom cared that she was sad. He shook his head. "You think I'm the villain," he muttered. "But sometimes kids have to learn they can't always be part of everything." "I agree," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "But there's a difference between learning that and feeling like you're less important." He didn't respond. He just picked up his laptop again, ending the conversation. I tried to let it go for a few days, but it didn't get better. My sister called me midweek to chat, and I told her what happened. I hadn't meant to vent, but it all came out. The hurt, the confusion, the anger. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Honestly, I think you did the right thing. You can't just expect a 14-year-old to sit home alone while everyone else is having fun." That made me feel a little less crazy. When I told my mom, she was more measured. "Well," she said slowly, "maybe next time you could have toned it down a bit. A lunch out would have been enough." "Would it have?" I asked. "Or would he have still been angry she got anything at all?" She didn't have an answer for that. The boys didn't seem to care much either way. When they heard what Abby and I did, Mark shrugged and said, "Cool." Liam just asked if she'd gotten any games for them. But Josh's attitude stayed the same. He started making little comments if I so much as suggested Abby and I have a girls' afternoon. "Oh, another special day?" he'd say, his tone dripping with sarcasm. It wasn't lost on me that he never said anything like that when he took the boys out alone. By the end of the week, I was tired of feeling like I'd done something terrible when all I'd done was try to make sure my daughter didn't feel like an afterthought. One evening, Abby came to sit next to me while I was folding laundry. She rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I'm sorry Dad's mad." I felt my heart break a little. "You didn't do anything wrong," I told her, pressing a kiss to her hair. "You deserved a nice day." She nodded but didn't say anything else. That's when I realized something important. Even if Josh never agreed, I didn't regret what I'd done. I'd rather have my daughter feel valued than spend her whole adolescence believing she had to pretend she wasn't hurt. And if that meant things were tense for a while, I could live with it. Now that a little time has passed, I keep replaying it all in my mind, wondering if I really did something so terrible. I keep thinking, if the situation had been reversed, if Mark or Liam had been the one left out, would Josh have felt the same way? Or would he have taken them fishing, bought them lunch, maybe picked out a new video game to make it up to them? I honestly believe he would have. But when it came to Abby, it was somehow different. I've tried to see it from his side. I understand he wants the kids to learn they won't always be part of everything. I get that he believes life isn't fair. But I also think there's a difference between learning disappointment and feeling like you don't matter as much as your siblings. When Abby asked to go with them, she wasn't demanding. She wasn't throwing a fit. She just wanted to be included. When she was told no, she was sad, not entitled. I didn't take her shopping to spite Josh. I didn't try to one-up their trip. I just wanted her to have something to look forward to so she wouldn't spend the whole weekend feeling unwanted. Was it a little over the top? Maybe. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat if it meant she knew she mattered. What bothers me the most is that Josh has made this about some principle. But he can't actually explain why it bothers him so much. He keeps saying I'm teaching her to expect special treatment, but she's never been that kind of kid. She doesn't expect expensive gifts or fancy outings. She just wants to feel included and loved. Since that weekend, he's been colder to both of us. He barely looks at Abby, and he only talks to me when he has to. He still hasn't apologized for how he spoke to her or to me. I'm tired of feeling like I have to defend what I did. I'm tired of wondering if I'm the only one who thinks our daughter's feelings deserve to be acknowledged. I don't regret the weekend we had together. I don't regret the Build-A-Bear or the lunch or the little shopping spree. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder if there was another way to handle it. Some compromise I didn't think of. Some way to keep the peace without letting Abby sit home feeling like she didn't matter. And maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe this is really just about Josh feeling like he lost some kind of control over the message he was trying to send. I don't know. So, Reddit, AITA for taking my daughter out for a special weekend when her dad and brothers decided she wasn't welcome on their trip? Would it have been better to tell her, "Sorry, you just have to stay home and deal with it"? Because to me, that feels a lot colder than any shopping spree ever could.